Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Senator, we'll all stand together.
Great.
Captain?
Hey, Jordan, I'll wear my hat too. Give me my hat too. Great. Thank you. Great. Want to be good?
Tommy? You good?
We thank the media for your continuing coverage of the USS The Sullivans story and our efforts in Buffalo and across the nation, in fact, to salvage this historic ship and make sure that the ship is available for people to see for generations to come, hopefully. We're very fortunate today that the Majority Leader of the United States Senate, Senator Chuck Schumer, is here with us. We're also joined by Captain Littlejohn, who is the commander of the Buffalo sector of the United States Coast Guard, and of course, Paul Marzello, who is president and CEO of the Buffalo Naval Park. We've talked about the great cooperation, partnership, and collaboration between many levels of government and our community, the Naval Park, City of Buffalo, County of Erie, certainly the Coast Guard, who has been tremendously invaluable, or should I say tremendously valuable, to everything that we are doing here to save the ship. We are very fortunate today that a major amount of help, I'm not going to say is on its way, a major amount of help is here in the presence and the person of Senator Chuck Schumer. It's now my pleasure to introduce the Majority Leader of the United States Senate, Senator Chuck Schumer.
Thank you, Mayor. And first, let me thank the mayor. Whenever there's a problem in Western New York, it can be big as this one is, medium-sized or small, affecting a few people, the mayor is always there, and is always, whenever there's a federal angle to this, is there calling me and getting on top of it, so I salute him. Second, I'm going to take off my hat for a minute. I want to wish everybody a happy Dingus Day. I want to show you, I am Dingus Day head to toe. I put on my Dingus Day socks. What do you think of those? And I'm going to call out McKinley, who always asks me about Dingus Day and is not wearing a red tie. He says he has a red coat, but that was given to him by Channel 2. That does not count. And one other thing about Dingus Day I'll recall on a lighter note. I was the Grand Marshal of Dingus Day, about 10 years ago, and actually that's where I saw McKinley and his family, so we always talk about Dingus Day. What happened, you may remember, is Anderson Cooper, the CNN media star, I think you were mayor at that point.
I was.
Called out, they made fun of Dingus Day. There was an outrage by the Polish community, by the people of Buffalo, the people of Chicago too, and he backed off and said he'd be Grand Marshal. And then he backed out of being Grand Marshal, so I was the pinch hitter, and I was the Grand Marshal a few years back. We had a great time. Okay, but now on the more serious note, I want to thank everybody who is here. I certainly, as I mentioned, want to thank the mayor. Paul Marzullo does a great job as the CEO of the Buffalo Naval Park. You'll hear him in a few minutes. And it's really an honor to have Captain Lexia Littlejohn, who's head of the U.S. Coast Guard Buffalo sector, which runs from Cleveland all the way up to Messina and has over 1,200 men and women under her command. So we're very glad to have you here as well. Now, let me just say, as everyone knows, last Friday, the beloved The Sullivans, USS The Sullivans, began sinking due to the conditions of the hull and a likely pump failure, causing this iconic Buffalo landmark to begin to sink and putting the future of this beloved museum ship and memorial in some doubt. It's heartbreaking. This floating memorial to a working-class family who lost all 5 of their sons in World War II in Guadalcanal has served as the pride and joy of Buffalo's waterfront. This is one of the greatest naval parks not just in New York State, but in the country. I don't know if there's one that really rivals it in many ways. And so it's a great icon for Buffalo. And we cannot let the Sullivan stories sink into the abyss. So today I am putting out an SOS across the federal government. Save our Sullivans. SOS. And I am committed to the mayor and to the park to do everything I can to get federal dollars to help. And in fact, we have a three-pronged plan to help make this happen, to help get federal monies. Our plan can offer 3 lifeboats to help the Sullivans survive the rough waters now, and will be the first of many steps that helps them set sail once again in the bright future. So, let me just say, we need to start help getting funding here. Obviously, it'll be a joint effort between the city, the county, the state, but the federal government should have a real role. Obviously, this was a naval ship, and this is a shipyard. The U.S. Navy, the Coast Guard, and all of our federal government and the men and women who serve and have served in our military love memorials like this because they remind us of the fights that we have had to make for our freedom over the decades and over the centuries. So there's a strong federal interest in making sure that things can come right back. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm fully committed to having all hands on deck and getting the maximum amount of federal dollars we have, and we have a 3-pronged approach. First, as you know, there's now something called congressionally directed spending. Used to be called earmarks. As majority leader, I have some clout with earmarks, and I am telling the mayor and Mr. Marzullo that I will do everything I can to get as big an earmark as we can get to help with the Sullivans, to help with it. Step 2 involves dealing with the emergency in front of us. As I'm sure as you've heard, when the hull was breached, oil began to spill out, polluting our waterways. And while the cleanup efforts have already begun, this is going to be an expense, and it shouldn't be the city or the county that have to, or of course the park here that have to pay for this. The good news here is that we got over $100 billion to clean up the Great Lakes. We got $1 billion, sorry. I was going to say 100 million and a billion. We got $100 million for the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. I put that in the last ARP bill. It's been covered by all of you. Some of that money can be used to clean up the oil and the spills and get things back in tip-top shape here, because that's going to be an expense that we'll have to deal with. And third, there's something that that we put into the federal budget called the National Maritime Heritage Grant Program. We put in $5 million, and there's a limit to how much each heritage area can get. But I am going to, in the defense bill of this year, get a much higher amount and have a good chunk of that earmarked for our naval park. So that's the 3-pronged approach that we have so that we can get the kind of dollars that we need. We're not going to let the limitations that have existed in the past on these programs stand in our way. And we'll work with the mayor, we'll work with the Coast Guard, we'll work with the county and the state to do everything we can so things are in tip-top shape. The Sullivans are so important to Buffalo, to our Irish-American heritage here in New York State and in the country, and just to the greatness of America, that a mother lost 5 sons all at once fighting for our freedom. And that should be remembered, and there's no better way than restoring the Sullivans and making sure that thousands and hundreds of thousands of people can see and remember. So with that, let me turn it over to Mr. Marzullo. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
This is a great day for the Buffalo and Erie County Naval and Military Park. And on behalf of our board, our staff, volunteers, docents, I want to give a great shout out of thank you to the Senator for his willingness to not only visit us here, but bring some really encouraging news. At 0700 this morning, we had our day 5 briefing, and I am more encouraged than ever when I look around that table to see the talent pool whose mission, which we have identified as 3 objectives. 1, certainly to save the ship. 2 is to do it in a safe manner so that we have no further incidents. And 3, to make sure that we remove any contaminants that may be a result of the water being discharged from the ship. I have to say that we have received an incredible amount of support, not only from Western New York, New Yorkers, but throughout the country. And they continue to come in, which gives us a feeling of we're doing our job. We're doing our job for all of you, and we're doing your job for all of us. The ship is extremely important in the sense that she is a national historic landmark. And with that, we take this job extremely seriously. And that's why we have brought in this pool of talent. We were joined this morning by an international salvage company, TNT, who flew in from Detroit last night and met with us. They are joining us with 2 experts, and we are just gratified that we have an additional source of talent to work with us to make sure that we get this job done and we get a job done right and as quickly as possible. I have to say that standing to my right has been the captain of the Coast Guard Buffalo sector, who's been extremely helpful in bringing her staff down here and working with us closely and making sure we do this job right. So I'm going to introduce Captain Littlejohn.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning. I am Captain Lexi Littlejohn, the commander for Sector Buffalo. The Coast Guard is here and has formed a unified command with New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the Naval Park, as well as the County of Erie. And our primary goals are protection of the environment, also protection of the public, and safety of responders. We recognize the historical and cultural significance of the Sullivans, and we want to conduct this response to honor that. So we have approximately 30 plus responders on scene right now. As Mr. Marzello just mentioned, we have TNT Salvage, who has just arrived, who will be giving us detailed information on a salvage plan, putting that together, and then the Coast Guard will be able to approve that. So I just wanted to let you know that the Coast Guard is working very strongly with the agencies on scene to conduct this response in a safe and effective way. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. Good job.
So again, we thank Senator Schumer for being here. We thank him for the 3 areas of assistance he is providing: congressional funding that members are able to utilize, the funding for environmental cleanup, and as the Senator said and as Paul said, that is underway, and we thank the Coast Guard for their expertise in guiding us all through that process. And then finally, the Congressional Maritime Grant that will be available for USS The Sullivans as well. As Paul and the board of the Naval Park and all of us have been saying, one of the mantras of this effort is that failure is not an option. And so we are all working collectively together. The Senator being here today is incredibly good news. This is going to be a very expensive operation, and having federal resources to be able to apply to getting this job done properly and completely is critically important. With that, we will open up to any questions that the members of the media have for Senator Schumer or any of us.
On this subject. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, sure. I want to get back to that part about getting money for environmental cleanup.
Yes.
I mean, how critical is that for the museum? Because it's your ship, and if your ship's leaking oil, you know, you might be on the hook for a pretty big bill.
That's why we want to make sure that neither the Naval Park or the city Or the Coast Guard out of their Buffalo funds is there. The Great Lakes Restoration, $1 billion, is just for this, is for cleanups. We didn't expect it with the Sullivans, but it's for cleanups, and that's where the money should and will come from, and I'm going to make sure. I was the author of putting the Great Lakes Restoration Act in the ARP.
So that would pay for cleanup? Would
Correct.
it also maybe absolve you, get you off the hook? Are you worry about getting fined for this and everything?
Why would anyone want to fine the naval park for doing its patriotic duty? And it's not their fault. It's an old ship. It's how many? I don't know when it was built.
80 years
41,
old.
80 years
80
old.
years old.
Why
So
would anyone
that's the
wanna
short
do
answer.
anything but this litigious society of ours and rules
Well,
and regulations?
we'll defend them. We'll step in and say they shouldn't be on the hook. Okay? Yes, sir.
Congressman Higgins was here on April the 4th. They gave $490,000 to the Buffalo Naval Park for preservation and repair with the USS Sullivans. How much more realistically could you stand to get if your efforts to get this money comes through? What realistically can we see?
Well, we're going to get as much as we can. In terms of earmarks, I was able to get, I think, over $300 million in total earmarks. That's a lot of them throughout the state. But we're going to do everything we can to get all the dollars we can. Okay? All right, we're going to now go last one, and then we'll go look out the ship. I have to get to Utica. Go ahead.
Just with concerns with not only just the USS The Sullivans, but also looking at the Little Rock and also the Croaker, is there any other concerns surrounding those ships as well, or is it just with the Sullivans at this point?
It's a great question. I think not only the other two ships that we have in the water here at the Buffalo Naval Park, but there are ships around the country that are in similar situations. These are World War II battleships. This particular one is 80 years old. These things are bound to happen as they start to deteriorate. So as a nation, I think we need to address the situation. We want to preserve these ships because they have a story to be told for generations to come. So right now, I think this is the start of it right here in Buffalo, New York, and I'm just thrilled we have a team to address it.
Question
Thank
from
you.
Deidre Williams.
Yeah,
From
we're going to go
Buffalo
look
News.
at the ship. Go ahead.
Just
Go
a
ahead.
question for Mr. Marzella. Will you provide like an update on how the process of removing the contaminants are? Like how much have you gotten out? How much more do you think is still there?
We're going to do a daily update.
Yeah, we are going to have a daily update in the afternoon. The mayor is supposed to be present here to help us explain that to the public. I also have our site commander, Commander McKinstry, who has all the details and will be able to give you all the facts and figures as we have that daily update to you.
Right. And just in reference to the question you asked, we can't give a number now because we don't know the cost. Once we know the cost, we'll try to get as much of it federal as we can. Okay? Thank you, folks. No, we're just going to go, we're going to do on this subject. On this subject. Go ahead, yes. Ooh,
I got it.
sorry.
And you know, this is going forward. I know, as Paul, you said, you got to get this safe. We did a story on Friday where we looked at other ships around the country, cofferdams, things of that nature. That, however, would require approval from, I'll put the captain on the hook here too, the Coast Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, the state DEC, to do anything like that for a more permanent structure to either get these ships out of the water or anything else. Well, you too, Senator, will you work with the Army Corps
Of course.
Engineers?
I work very well with the Army Corps. As you know, their headquarters for New York is right here in Buffalo. They've been very cooperative on a whole lot of issues throughout the state, and we'll certainly work with them to deal with the broader issue and to deal with other naval parks. The third bill we have, the third prong I mentioned, deals with naval parks, but it's underfunded. So we got to get more funding, and we will look at other ways the funding can be spent, absolutely.
And to protect these ships for the future.
For sure. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay? Let's go. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Sorry about your microphone.
We're going to follow you.